Nigeria's players claim to have been left stranded at an airport in Libya ahead of an Africa Cup of Nations qualifier. It's caused national governments to get involved, with one player saying it's like a hostage situation. Now, pictures have been posted online of the squad after their plane was unexpectedly diverted to an airport, which is still 3.5 hours away from where the game was scheduled to be played in Benghazi. Players were left at the remote location for over 12 hours last night with no food, drink or access to internet. The Nigerian Federation have denied giving unfavourable treatment to the Libyan delegation in the reverse fixture last week. Former Watford defender William Troost-Ekong is the captain of Nigeria and has posted online saying the squad intend on boycotting the game tomorrow night. He says, at this point, we have called for our Nigerian government to intervene and rescue us. As the captain, together with the team, we have decided that we will not play this game. CAF should look at the report and what is happening here. If they decide to allow this kind of behaviour, let them have the points. We will not accept to travel anywhere by road here, even with security. It's not safe. We can only imagine what the hotel or food would be like given to us if we continued. We respect ourselves and respect our opponents when they are our guests in Nigeria. Mistakes happen, but these things on purpose have nothing to do with international football. Well, Galatasaray striker Victor Osimhen is not in the squad, but has posted on Instagram saying, this attempt by the Libyan FA is no longer just a delay. It is an intentional tactic to weaken and ruin the morale of the players, and it's beginning to look more like a hostage situation. The safety and well-being of my teammates and all the team staff are the most important things right now. Our captain has said we won't play the match, and I fully support that, except if the game is taken to a neutral ground. My brothers and coaches must return home safely. We are not criminals or prisoners.
Okay, so a lot to unpack here, and to help us make sense of all this is our man when it comes to AFCON qualifying, Mbizo Mzimane. Mbizo, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, how can you help us make sense of what just happened with the Nigerian national team?
Well, gentlemen, it's really what we've been hearing about has certainly been a harrowing experience, and it's been one that's been very difficult to understand. A lot of contradicting information coming from a variety of sources. But what is clear is what you guys have just wrapped up for us there, which is a team that's been abandoned in an airport, locked gates, no food or water, no internet access even to contact their families. A situation in which Libyan officials at the airport were described as being aggressive and rude, not transparent at all, without people not understanding what is going on precisely. Although the president of the NFF did say that they expected some kind of harsh treatment on the basis of Libya's claims to have been treated in a similar fashion in Nigeria, but they had never expected anything of this sort, anything so grave. And so we're still trying to understand exactly what has happened, although CAF is now already involved with their own investigation via the disciplinary committee, and so we're waiting to hear more about what actions are taken moving forward.
Yeah, and that sort of is the interesting question, is what comes next here, because you mentioned that there is sort of a reciprocation of treatment that maybe the Libyan players have received in the past. How often has this happened in your experience of covering African football?
Well, unfortunately, this kind of off-field tactic, logistical tactic, is not uncommon in the African game. But again, I reiterate that nothing to this extent I think I've ever seen, certainly not in recent times. And while Libya might claim that they were treated in a similar fashion in Nigeria, the Nigerian officials have a lot of documented proof that this, in fact, was not the case, and that whatever logistical problems that Libya did experience in the country was due to their own doing. So, for example, asking for a plane to land in Port Harcourt as opposed to Uyo as initially agreed upon, and then deciding on their own volition to not take that charter flight further forward to Uyo and rather go by road, which was something that the NFF advised against, offered them counsel, even offered them transportation, and they decided to find their own, which did not pan out very well. And a lot of people are beginning to think that Nigeria is being scapegoated for poor management and mismanagement from the Libya FA, who in recent times have come into some criticism, even by their own former president, who recently resigned on Sunday. So it's very odd what's going on here. And again, we wait to hear the concrete facts coming out of CAF.
Victor Osimhen made a post that first brought this to our attention when he was speaking up for his Nigerian national team. As we take a look at it, disappointed by the unfair treatment my brothers and coaches are facing at the Libya airport last night. Actions like this go against the spirit of sportsmanship. My support is with my team. I know they'll stay strong despite these obstacles. I call on CAF and other football bodies to intervene as my teammates and officials are still stranded at the airport. This is uncalled for and inhumane. We stand together stronger than ever. And so this call to CAF to do something about this, I'm curious what they can do and what should be done about it. For more perspective on this, we also want to bring in our good friend Michael Lahoud, who has played for the Sierra Leone national team and has some experience in some of these matters. Michael, what was your reaction, first off, just when you saw the news of what was happening with the Nigerian national team?
Well, it was twofold. One was shaking my damn head because this has happened time and time again all across Africa. This isn't a Libyan issue. It isn't a Nigerian issue. This is a CAF African footballing issue. And the second was that I've experienced this before. It was deja vu all over again. And I've experienced this in Kenya. I've experienced this in Cote d'Ivoire. And this has to stop. And the only way it's going to stop is that not CAF, who doesn't have any power, who refuses to make any disciplinary actions, FIFA. FIFA has to get involved in a way where suspensions, fines, bans are issued. That's the only way it's going to change.
When you say that these experiences resonate with you, Michael, can you describe maybe one of those two experiences you mentioned, either in Cote d'Ivoire or I believe it was Kenya that you said as well?
Yeah, there was a AFCON qualifier that we had. We played Kenya, and then we were going to go to Seychelles, and it was a nightmare. We get to Kenya, and when we get to Kenya, our gate gets locked. And one by one, people throughout the airport get escorted out of the airport. And then we realize that we're the only ones left in the airport. And then military officials start coming, dogs start showing up, and they tell us there's no way they'll allow us to get out of the airport. At the time, there was an Ebola outbreak that happened in Sierra Leone. Not one of our players had been to Sierra Leone in the last calendar year, and they kept us and held us stranded for almost 8 hours. Like the Nigerian national team, without any resources, without food, without water, this has kind of become protocol. Now, at the time, we were doing well in the group stages, and similar to Nigeria, they had just played Libya and wiped the floor with them. It was only 1-0, but they were dominant, and they're about to punch their ticket to the African Cup of Nations. If you look at the table, Libya, they're stranded with, I think, 1 point. And so there's this desperation, win at all costs, and it leads me to this. There's a ruling in FIFA that government should never interfere with football. Time and time again, that ruling does not matter in Africa, and it has to stop. It's a corruption that's deep-rooted, whether it's government officials, whether it's CAF itself, and it just goes all the way to the top. And this is one of the things that's putting a massive stain on the African game.
I want to explore the call that you just made for FIFA to step in, though, Michael. And Mbizo, I'd like to direct this question towards you because as I sit here listening to you guys paint a picture, it's a confusing one. There's a lot of he said, well, they did this to us, and this is retribution for that. Is there any danger in an outside body that is not familiar with what's happening in Africa on a consistent basis coming in and telling everybody how these punishments are going to be handed down?
Well, certainly there is. And of course, as Pan-Africans and African football proponents, we'd love to have CAF step into the situation and obviously sanction who they need to sanction and take this issue very seriously, which they have given a statement that they will do. But as Mikey has spoken about just now, this is an ongoing issue. And a lot of people doubt whether CAF is resolute enough to hand down the requisite punishments. And again, these are elements that really bottleneck the development of African football. And I certainly believe that there is some modicum of corruption because when you think about it, for example, there are reports that Libya wanted to save money rather than take this charter flight and rather do something else when they were in Nigeria. And you wonder, where is that money going? This was the money that was designed for that. What is CAF going to do? Who is in hand? Who's holding whose hand? So, I mean, you at some point you have to say, well, perhaps there is a need for intervention from FIFA. Although we'd love to give CAF an opportunity to do something about this, it is an enormous issue. And then in their incapacity to handle this issue, then perhaps it should go to the higher ups for them to deal with it in a more resolute fashion.
Michael, I feel bad because this puts pressure on players that is not down to them, right? It's not the players' fault that they're in the situation, nor is it their responsibility to fix it. But how important is it that the likes of Victor Osimhen, Victor Boniface, the captain William Troost-Ekong, using their platforms in this manner to kind of galvanize the footballing world around them and maybe actually start to address these problems head on? What do you feel is the players' responsibility in being part of the solution?
Well, this is the beauty of the age of social media, because as we've both said, this has been going on for a long time. I'm not talking about years, I'm talking about decades. This is a Pan-African issue that it runs right down to the root of African football. And so players like that and players throughout all of Africa that have experienced this, that live it, that I'm going to give you an insight into what goes on just beyond a match being postponed. So there's money on the line, whereas a player, you're leaving your club football, you're not insured by your federation, you're putting your body on the line for the hopes of winning and, yes, the national pride, but there's financial implications at stake where you're playing for bonuses that you only get when a match is played. So now these players have taken time away from club football, put their body on the line for one game, and stayed away from their families, their friends, and their club teams, and they're not going to get paid for it. And so there's financial implications of that. There's safety reasons. When you're stranded in the airport, you're not being fed, you're not being taken care of. Your safety is on the line. And there's flashbacks I'm having when you're being on lockdown and then governments get involved, bureaucratic decisions get involved. There was a moment where we were on the run in Kenya itself, moving from place to place as almost we were fugitives. That is the height of what this can get to if left unchecked.
Certainly, we appreciate the perspective from both of you gentlemen on this issue, and it's good to see that these players have a platform, at least now through social media, to let people know about what's happening. Mr. Lahoud and Mbizo, thank you so much for joining us and giving us insight on this topic. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Coach, for joining us on the show today. Let's have your thoughts of what the team and yourself passed through.
Thanks for having me. It was actually a tough one. We left here since yesterday afternoon, and then we arrived in Libya at about 7:30, which is 8:30 local time. So from that yesterday up till now, we've been, do I use the word held hostage somewhere? We couldn't get out. It was a bit of a trauma for everyone, but the thing is I can't really comprehend what must have informed that. Because we all know how football can unify nations, can unify people. And for Libya to act in that manner, or Libyans to act in that manner, was very strange to me. You know, but however, I want to say big thanks to the federal government of Nigeria for the quick intervention, especially Minister of Sports, Senator Oko. And another good thing is the boys are not really, I won't say they're not worried, but mentally they're still strong. You know, it would have been nice to come back home with 3 points. Unfortunately, the game didn't hold. Of course, no game would have been played under such circumstances. But the good thing is we're back home, and also thank the Libyans for letting us go. Because it took a while, and I don't understand what happened. I can't comprehend, seriously.
Well, we already know that CAF has said that they will look into it, that the disciplinary committee will take action. But let us talk about sportsmanship. In sports, there's a term called sportsmanship where you treat your opponents in a fair way. Was that the direct opposite of what you encountered, knowing that the global practices state that they should receive their guests with the utmost welcome?
Absolutely. But you see, the comment from the captain last time when they came here, I think triggered the whole thing, which was not correct. Although they did apologize during the pre-match meeting here, and because it was their fault that they landed in Port Harcourt. and Nigerians or Nigeria will never ever treat any team like this, never. And then I think the public was incited for some reason, and they started acting unfunny, you know. But you know,